to another episode of the Cultivate and Keep podcast, where we talk about what it means to be a man. And today is the third day of our 2-week challenge, where we are challenging people to share the best. So we're for the next 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks of December, we're doing a podcast episode a day and a blog post a day. And with that, we're also doing a challenge to whoever can share the most gets a all new Kindle Paperwhite, the book of your choice, an exclusive limited time run of the Cultivate and Keep t-shirt and hat. Also second and third place get things as well. But listen, this is just a great way, just a little thing we're doing, a little project we're doing to get the word out. It's a win-win for you because you get cool things that we'll send you, and then we get greater exposure. So if you go to cultivateandkeep.com/challenge, you can enter in some really quick information, share to your friends, share on social media. That'll help us out. And you can climb the leaderboard. And at the end, on December 14th, that challenge will wrap up and we'll issue the winning prizes.
Can we do it? Me and you?
No, we can't do it.
Man.
We would actually, I don't know if we would win. We could, we'll do it, but we're not going to win.
We obviously can't, Corey. It was a joke. But I want to challenge everyone who's listening to join the challenge.
Nice.
That sounds funny.
It's so compelling.
I've always wanted to do that. I did want to say again that, so with most things you do to make an entry, whatever, it's like a random raffle who's going to win. Mm-hmm. But this one is not like that. Nope. So the more you do it, the more you share through the website, then the higher likelihood that you will win.
Yes.
Because it's not a random draw. It's a leaderboard. So if you share the most, then you're going to win, bottom line.
Then you're going to win. And we would love for you to do that. So please share. Please enter the challenge. It's at cultivateandkeep.com/challenge. And we will look for you on social media. We'll give you the shout outs.
Yeah. Oh, we will.
We'll give you the shout outs, man.
Wow.
All right.
Cool.
Great. So tell us what we're talking about today.
Yeah. So tonight, we are talking about time management.
Ooh.
Which is my favorite topic.
Really? Time management.
I don't know about that. But so how to be a better steward and manager of your time. And so I was telling Corey a few weeks ago that I feel like in the past I've been really good at time management and been pretty good at like having a lot going on, a lot on my plate, and being able to kind of just handle it all. And I think generally I have a fairly high capacity. But recently I was telling you that I've had a hard time like being organized and like not being overwhelmed. Like there's just like a lot of new things on my plate right now, and it's all super, super unstructured and left to me. Like there is no like company policy or procedure for this. It's all just like whatever I make of it. And I've always thought I wanted that, which I do. It's been great, don't get me wrong, but it's been hard. Like it's been challenging, and I never expected it to be that way. And I've been someone that's always been like self-motivated. I've never like really needed like someone to tell me what to do when it comes to like chores or getting things done, whatever. But for some reason, I'm having a hard time. And so that's kind of what sparked this. And so I was really thinking through, like, what are the things that I used to do in the past that made me a decent time manager? And so kind of put some notes together, and me and Corey obviously have talked about this a lot. And so, just the idea of what can we do to better manage our time. So we're going to talk about, for me and Corey, kind of tips and tricks that we do. Yeah. And then, kind of get personal about it. But also, like, what are some ways to be a better steward of time that you have,
Yeah. And to give some further context into where we're coming from. So you just bought a business and now you're taking over. And I mean, like you said, it's all on you. There's no company policy because you make the company policies, and it's a relatively small business. And so really, like, you have all the freedom in the world, basically. But that means that also it's going to be a struggle because you don't have someone else. You're not on someone else's time. You're on your own time, which makes time management ever more important for you.
Yeah, and so that's true. But more than that, like when it comes to making a living, like I have no choice now but to be productive. In the past, and really with any job that you're at, it's easy to have days where you kind of skate by. You don't get maybe you don't get a lot done, or you're distracted, but you still get your paycheck. You're clocked in, or you're on salary, so you're still getting that pay. But now for me, I can't have wasted days anymore. If I waste my day, if I'm not productive, like I lose out on opportunity to make money. And so that's the other side of it, is like the pressure that's with this now, is because I'm not just talking about like being more efficient with my time. Like I'm talking about like surviving and living, and, like making money to support my future family. So yeah, that's kind of what sparked this.
Yeah, for sure. And for me, to also give some context, I work a full-time job, but also we do this, and I have a wife, and we also do ministry, and we also have friends, and we have family. And so something that I'm realizing is that, especially as I get older, and I can't even imagine what it's like to be a parent right now. In this season of life, but I'm just realizing that like as you get older, and the more that you do, the less time that you have, and like the more important time management is, because there's just always an ever increasing amount of things that demand your time. So it's important. I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, so we kind of can get into it. So when we talk about time management, we are really talking about the idea of being able to control your time, and really just kind of juggling, main aspects of life. So, work, home life, social life, hobbies. Corey kind of just explained that. But I think kind of what we're getting at is really learning how to set aside non-essential tasks, and especially tasks that take up time, and just things that we do that waste our time. And I think there's a lot of that exists. And the reality is we have control over those things. And one thing we talked about before was like, before we recorded was, like what are common questions people might ask? And, one thing you said was like, what about someone says, I don't have time, or, oh, like I go to work too early. And I thought of like 100 like counters to that in my head instantly. It was like, there's so many ways to squash that way of thinking. Because the reality is it's up to us. Like we have to identify what is important to us. What do we want to do? Especially I think when it comes to time management, thinking of like, what do you want to do like this week or today? Like what's in the immediate future that you want to get done, and simply prioritizing that and making a way for that to happen. It's on us to do that. Yeah,
absolutely. And one thing to point out too is that we all have 24 hours in a day. Like we're all given the same amount of time, but that time is limited. It's very limited. You only have usually 16 waking hours in the day. So you have to decide what you're going to do with those 16 hours. And I think for a lot of us, when we think about time management, we can be convicted because maybe we don't feel like we're good stewards of our time, or maybe we waste a lot of time, or maybe we just don't feel good or confident about our time management abilities. But the fact is that time is a limited resource for you every day going on for all of life. And so you have to treat it like that limited. You have to treat it like that precious thing that it really is.
Yeah, I agree. So I've been thinking about the idea of time being. I said the idea every episode. I'm gonna say every episode. Wow. I've been thinking about the thought of time being like a fleeting resource, and I was thinking like, I'm 23. Like wow, that this is like the prime time of my life, and like what am I doing? Like what am I really like working on? And I like to think that I'm focused on good stuff, but like thinking, I don't know, like what's going to happen 10, 20 years down the road where I'm out of this prime time, and like what am I going to like make for myself? Like what is going to be like the life that I've lived and that I've done so far? And for me it was convicting, thinking like, wow, like there's so much more to be done, But I think about like, what about those people that we know that maybe they don't have a lot of things they're working on or they're focusing on. Like I think it's important to recognize where are you and where does your conviction lie, because you can be someone that you don't have a whole like a lot of activities that fill your life. You kind of explain for you that there's a lot of things that you're involved with. So someone that's not involved with a lot, that doesn't mean that they're wasting time. It doesn't mean that they're like not doing anything with their life, but all to say, it's relative for each person is what I'm trying to say, of how you spend your time and your level of conviction for that.
I think it also comes down to like different seasons and like what your time in your life calls for.
That's a good point.
Early on, like you said, you said that you're kind of like in the prime time. If you're 23, you have all the time, all the resources, all the ability to go out and do the things that you want. But really, especially at a younger age, this kind of season of our lives is all about investing. So what should our time reflect is to reflect a lot of activities that are about investing for the future. Whereas maybe if you're in a season of being a new parent, or season of being a new parent, your time to reflect a lot of investing in your family and your relationships and your kids. If you're in a season of refreshment and you're trying to reprioritize, your time should reflect very essential things, all that to say, recognize the season that you're in and the things that you should be doing with your time for that season.
Yeah, and I think that whatever season you're in, whatever you're going through, I think it's important, kind of like you're saying, to really identify like what is important to you and why. Once you know that, then there's an ability to, I think, better manage your time, but for the things that you want to do. But even like when we know like what we want and we know our why, like it's still hard. Like time management is like super hard. I think that's kind of what I'm learning now is like, I think for me in the past it's never been like super hard for me, but right now it's really hard. I was telling you earlier that I've been having a hard time, like almost like honestly not being intimidated by the day. Like I think there's so many things I have to do. Yeah. Like I don't know like where to start. Yeah. And we'll get into that. I get into later how we tackle that. But that's how I felt, just like feeling overwhelmed. And so the question is like, why is managing our time so hard sometimes?
Yeah.
It's
it is very hard. This goes back to, some previous episodes, like the last episode we were talking about, easy choices, hard life, easy choices. And that's very much reflected in our time, because what we spend our time on ultimately reflects, our life and all the consequences. So if you're spending your time on the wrong things, then guess what? You get a very wrong result. But if you spend your time on the right things, then you get the right result. Mm-hmm. And so managing your time is hard because it's a discipline. And it's because every discipline is a discipline because it requires doing hard things time over time after time. Time management is one of those things where it doesn't come naturally. You have to fight against your urge to just waste it or to spend it on the wrong things, spend it on the easy things. And you have to fight that with the discipline to manage your time correctly.
Yeah, I agree. I wanted to talk quickly about like a few benefits and like positive outcomes of being someone that's a good steward of your time. First and like most obvious one is, we are more productive and efficient with our time and what we can accomplish. And I want to say like these are all obvious, but I think when you compare it to like the negative outcome of not being a good time manager, I think it's kind of like an aha moment of like, oh yeah. Like let me really work on this.
You have to remind yourself of
why am I doing this? Yeah, why am I doing this? So yeah, you're more productive and you're more efficient. I like this one. You have a better professional and personal reputation. I think of when I'm stressed and when I'm like behind on stuff and like whatever, like I'm sure that gives like a negative outlook to my customers or to my friends or what people that I'm involved with. But when I'm like on top of stuff and organized and clear thinking, like it's probably the opposite. People are like, oh wow, like this guy's got, so that's important. Like the look you're giving off to people.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it really does. I mean, what you spend your time on, it's like, okay, how are you living your life is essentially what it is. So if you're not managing your time right, like it's kind of almost saying like you're not managing your life right in some ways. Yeah. And that reflects very publicly in everything that you spend your time on.
Yeah. Another benefit would be less stress. Also, I put down like the ability to kind of be present in the moment with whatever you're doing. I think when you're when we're not organized and we're not managing what's in front of us that well, it's like we're always thinking about all like the endless tasks to do. Like I was sharing with you when I've like recently just feeling super overwhelmed. Well, a big part of it, if I'm being honest, is because I haven't been I think I've gone away from some of my old systems of being organized and being being organized. And so when that happens, then I think it's easy for me to be with people and to not be focused. And I could be with you right now doing this recording and thinking about, the bazillion things to do, tonight, whatever, tomorrow. So, having less stress, we're able to be focused with what we're doing in the moment.
I think that's a big one. That's a really underrated, like, how do I get more clarity in my life? How do I get more focus? How do I not worry so much? How do I not be as fearful? Well, a lot of it starts with being a better steward of your time. Yeah, to be honest.
The next one that was like with that was having more restful night's sleep. Yeah, which might sound like again super basic, but like I've been having nights recently where I will literally like, I can't fall asleep, but I wake up in the middle of the night just like so many things like racing through my mind. And it sucks. Like it's been a long time since I've experienced that, but that's hard, and it's hard. Like you just don't rest, and you even when you like say quote unquote get like 8 hours of sleep, whatever, you weren't actually sleeping 8 hours, and you weren't really resting, and that affects the way it affects my days and our days. And so again, basic stuff, but really does have, like you were saying, it's underrated and it has an effect on us.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up because I've never been someone to like struggle with like going to sleep or staying asleep.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest
same with me.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me is like choosing to go to sleep, because if I don't feel like I've done what I wanted to do today, or I didn't feel like I accomplished all that I wanted, or like maybe like my time, I didn't spend the right time in the right places, it makes me feel like I have to make up for it and spend more time in the day doing those things that I didn't do earlier.
Yeah.
And so whether that's like reading, or I'm just going through my phone, or I'm just like thinking and worrying about it, that's the biggest thing for me. Like, then I can't fall asleep. Like, then I feel like I have to do those things in order to feel like then I'm allowed to go to sleep.
Yeah, I agree with that. Next to kind of, again, along these lines, so another benefit is being more organized, and then you also just having a clear mind. I think we touched on those two already, but super underrated, I think, aspects of living is having just clarity of mind and being organized. Like, I think times when I'm off track, and I'm unorganized, it's hard for me to live and like, to function. Like, I do so much better when things are in line and timely. Like, I function and I simply live better. Our last two, and then we can move on to the next section. So two more benefits would be in the workplace, increase opportunity for advancement. If you are someone that I'm thinking, like, now I employ a few people part time. Those guys that work for me, the ones that like can handle their stuff and like take care of the tasks I give them, like automatically that's like skyrocket and like my value for them and like the way I view them. And I want to give them more opportunity to grow and improve. And really, any like workplace, anyone I've ever worked for, I can tell the difference. Like, when I'm on top of my stuff, I can tell they're pleased with my work. This pops in my head, but I'm thinking like kind of off topic, but like with the Lord, like what about like for those things, like when we're on track and we're taking care of our work, we please our Heavenly Father. And times when we're not on track and we're not following Him, like it's like the opposite of like it's kind of like you're not pleasing your boss in a sense.
Yeah.
I don't know why that just popped in my head.
I think that's worthy to call out because, like you said, it's interesting. Like, time management is a reflection of who we are and what we're investing in, and good time management, which is a very limited resource that God has given us, is being a good steward. And being a good steward of the time that God's given you makes God happy. It pleases Him.
Yeah, I agree. All right, well, let's get to the tools and the tips.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So how do we want to do this? Do we want to kind of roll through them, or talk about like our personal ones first, or do we want to maybe
it's like a Q&A. We ask each other kind of what we do, I guess.
Yeah. First of all, a little disclaimer. Just wanted to say there is no hack or like formula for time management. Ultimately, it just comes to having discipline. Now, there are some ways you can make that easier. You can make your time management easier on you to execute and have discipline and actually follow through. But ultimately, there's no like productivity hack. There's no like time management hack. There's no like perfect system for it. Really, it's just setting yourself up for success. So do you want to kind of roll through like what your days look like, what your week looks like, what you struggle with, how you manage your time?
Yeah. So I think for me, like now, at least one of the main issues that I'm experiencing is like not having a Sabbath, but also not really having eight days off like at all.
Oh,
like,
interesting.
Pretty much working most of the day every day. And I think that's part of why. So I did that, and I changed some of my systems, which I'll get to in a moment. Which I think is why right now I'm feeling so flustered. But so my days look like now. So my like main work week, and we've talked about this before, but my main work week now is like Friday to Sunday. That's when I do like most of I get to work. With the event rental business, I try to go out on every like delivery and pickup. So I'll be out there, with the guys, and we're I'm meeting like the coordinators and the managers, and we're setting stuff up. So really just think of it like Friday to Sunday, like just like physical labor, working all day, and it's like late nights. And that can be like a lot. I had 2 weeks ago, I worked 35 hours in 2 days. It was like a stupid amount.
Jeez.
I mean, that's like getting back at 2 in the morning and starting at 6 the next day. Like it was a lot. So like the weekends is just a chaos basically. And then the weekdays, so that's the hard thing. So how the days work now, I mean, it's really like like we were saying earlier, completely kind of up to me. Like it's nice because it's my schedule is kind of whatever I want it to be, but there's like endless things to get done. And so what it's looking like right now, I try to make like Monday through like Tuesday, like working on like the business, like the internal side. And so whether that's, following up on proposals, whether that's working on the website or just kind of cleaning things up internally, I guess, going through old emails, following up, like that kind of stuff, responding to inquiries like that is what I do. And then, Wednesday through Friday, it's random. Like it's, right now I'm trying to work on acquiring like new products, so like buying new items to put on my website, or building new stuff, which takes up a lot of time, picking stuff up. I mean, there's like everything I do, and so it's a lot of like random stuff, and so it's hard for me to give you a structure. If I was telling you about when I worked at Le Bon's, like I could within a minute tell you what my days were like. They were super organized, and like I had like my office days, I had my field days, like it was very clear. Now it's like every day is kind of different, so it's hard for me to tell you what my days are like, but I can tell you they're busy and they're full.
Well, that's part of the challenge, is that you can't tell me what your days are like, because they're a little bit unpredictable and they vary week to week, which is part of the challenge of your whole dilemma, right?
One thing I wanted to say before we get to you was, so what's the system that works for me? What do I do? So for me, what I've always done is write everything down. Like that's kind of like what I do. And so, and specifically I have a very clear, organized list. And so whether it's like an idea list, so anytime I have a new idea or like a thought pops in my head, I put it specifically on my phone on a tab that's for ideas only. So it can be like business ideas, like an invention. I mean, literally anything. Yeah. Like I write it down. Then I have a separate list for like my business, so like to-dos, right? So I have that list, and I've broken that out to like short term, which would be like a weekly goal. I have long term, and I have like kind of like overall. I call it my master list, but like an overall goal that will kind of like never go away. So let's say for me, a goal is that I'm gonna give 110% with every customer. I would actually write that down on my master list, and that could actually be like a core value, but I put it down there because I see it often. I see it on my phone. And so for me, it's like I have like my day-to-day stuff, my long-term couple-year goals, but then I have like my overall, like what is my company, what it's going to be, what are like my overall goals that aren't going away. Well, for me, it's to give 110% to every customer. So that's kind of what I do, is write everything down. And I used to use just like the app that came on the phone, the iPhone, what's it called? The
Notes?
Apple Notes app. No, not that one. I use there's like the to-dos app.
The reminders app.
Reminders. Yeah. And I had it super organized. I loved it. And I'm like in the process of actually switching over to using Notion, which we've talked about. Yeah. And I think that's part of the reason why I've been a little flustered, because changing systems, if you rely on them a lot, I think it can like shake up your life. And like you said earlier, you write everything down. Like so do I. Like, I mean, every little thing. Like my day is largely like controlled by my calendar and like my to-do list. And so when I switched, it kind of like threw me off, and like I think some things have kind of like fallen through the cracks. And so for me, that's kind of been one thing I wanted to point out, is kind of getting back to those lists and those reminders.
Yeah, totally. So how do you feel? I mean, you mentioned that one of the things you're kind of struggling with is not having a Sabbath or a day off. Are you doing anything about it? Like, what do you think is going to be sort of the solution to that?
So the reason why I haven't been having a Sabbath is because like the work has to get done, like bottom line, for the business. So if I'm not going to do it, I need someone in place that can go do the work for me. So I have some guys, a few guys, I think I have 4 like consistent guys that work for me. One of them is qualified to like lead a team. So I've had him, what I've been doing recently is simply in advance scheduling him to work Sundays. And so just kind of like knowing for me, like, look, like if I'm gonna be consistent, I have to plan ahead. So I've been trying. So my way to get back to having a Sabbath is scheduling him to work Sundays. Basically, that's kind of it. Yeah. But what's happened in the past is I've had him scheduled, and he's had to call out a few times. So I mean, I've had to go work on a Sunday. So, which is a bummer, because not only like I'm not at church, but I miss my ministry of drumming there. I can't do that anymore. So that's kind of been hard. So,
Yeah. One of the things that I was thinking about was, one, and this is one of the points, is having deadlines. but like maybe give yourself a deadline of like, I'm going to take, whichever day it is off, Sunday or Wednesday or whatever you choose. I'm going to like consistently take this day off, have a system down by this date. Because I think I know that right now things are kind of like a little bit chaotic. You're figuring things out. You're changing systems. You're getting to know the business a lot. And so it's very like early stage and you just kind of have to like scramble to make it all work. But again, I think this goes back to like the short-term versus long-term thinking. You have to, you have to get out of the moment a little bit and you have to zoom out and think, well, how can I design this to be how I want it to be in 6 months down the road? Or how can I achieve my business for the vision of taking this day off and that day off, or having this time off and that time off, and then reverse engineering into, okay, well, by this date I should have, maybe you don't do like 2 days off. Maybe just have one day. Pick a Wednesday or whichever day is easiest. Get that win, figure out that system, and then move on to the next one. But I feel like having a date, or at least like knowing, like maybe it's even a date to start planning that, because right now you maybe can't afford to, but maybe it's like, okay, well, by February 2019 or a few months down the road, this day I'm going to sit down and plan and really think out, how am I going to do this?
I think so like for me, I think I was telling you earlier that I'm the kind of person, like when I know something has to get done, I kind of just go at it. Like rather than taking time to kind of really plan and think it all through, I just start trying to fix it or do it. And so for me, like the issue right now is like getting everything done. And so like that's what has to happen. So I'm just doing it. Like, I think you're right. I need to take time to like really kind of like think through like, okay, what do I want this to look like? Because I didn't buy myself a job. I bought myself a business. And so I think it's remembering that, like, it's easy to, what's that saying? Like, work on your business, not for your business. Is that how it goes? Like, it's easy for me to just kind of like work for the business, but I need to really work on it, like you're saying, and kind of put in place, or think through, like, what do I want? What do I want my days and weeks to look like? And then reverse engineer to have that. And so I think that's a good point. So I'll for sure do that.
Yeah, that's really good. Shall I walk through?
I want to hear about your day.
Okay. Yeah. So mine is obviously a more traditional in a lot of ways, because Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, I have a full-time job. Normally kind of what my day looks like a little bit is I've been trying every day, and I've been pretty good now recently. So I get up at 6:30, and then I've even like tried to block things out. And actually one of the things I've been thinking about more too is like during work in a traditional job, you like live and die by your calendar. You know what I mean? You go from the next meeting to the next meeting, and you're always checking. I mean, I know for me, I'm looking at my calendar every 10 minutes, which maybe I shouldn't, but you're always like, but outside of work, it's almost like you never look at your calendar for the day. You know what I mean? And so something I've been trying to do is block out like time in my calendar personally.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Because then I'm like, okay, well, like the reality is that if I don't do it, then I'm probably not going to get it done. So I get up at 6:30, I'll go make a smoothie, get my business done, get ready for the day. Now I'm trying to do 30 minutes of exercise, 30 minutes of devotions, and then I'll do a 30-minute walk with my dog, Remy. And then that's when I'm off to work. So now I've been basically like kind of structuring it out. So like 8:30 is usually when I have to get out the door to work. So that means I have 2 hours for 30-minute blocks to get everything done. So I have to wake up at 6:30, just kind of like engineering it that way. Then I get off of work, and then it's usually a mix of, Monday nights is small group night. So it's ministry, and I'll go straight to ministry. Tuesday, it's either a ministry or it's kind of like my personal time. So one thing I've also been trying to do is block out time for me to work on more personal projects. So Tuesday night is kind of like my night alone a little bit, and we'll probably start recording on Tuesdays, but that'll change. But the point is that I pick a night for just me to work on the things that I want to do. So some of those personal projects is like I'm writing, or I'm creating a new website, or I'm reading all night. It's just kind of like that's my night to whatever's on my mind and like work on me, basically. Wednesday is home group night, so go to church, Thursday is, whatever it is for us, whether we're recording or maybe just hanging out with Monique. Friday night is date night. That might move, but once a week, we've been pretty good about Friday night is date night. And then the weekends is kind of just, whatever it is. Sunday morning is go to church. Every other Sunday night, possibly every week on Sunday night, going to visit my parents.
It's funny as you're talking, man, it's like making me think more and more like something has to kind of like change up in my life. Because so for me, my only day off, it just changed, but before what has been the last 2 months, essentially, my only day off or night off is it's been Tuesday nights, and that has been like mine and Connie's like date night. So like my only night off where I'm not obligated to do something, it's a date night, which means there has been like zero time to just have like personal time or even just to relax. There's been none of that. It just kind of had me thinking as you were talking. I mean, every night, Monday night is my small group. Yeah. Tuesday night is that night off, but Wednesday night is home group. Thursday night, either we've done this recording or I've had a common ground. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all work. Yeah. And all day and night. But man, it has me thinking like I have to change that. Also thinking like getting married, like my obligations to my family first now. Then ministry and then my work. And I think I've kind of in the past I've mixed those up. I think I've always made like ministry first and then I think at times honestly I've had like work before like relationships. But I think the reality is like my wife and my family has to come first. Yeah. And then comes ministry and then comes work. And right now it's like work, kind of Connie, and then kind of ministry. So it's like I gotta fix those, Yeah. It's okay to not work all day every day,
It's not okay to work every day all day. Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to say as you were talking, I was thinking one thing that has been good for me have been consistent mornings. So I've always been like a fairly like decent early bird. So I still for the most part get up early. I have a few days I'll randomly sleep in, but most days I get up about 6:30, and I've been consistent to read about an hour every morning, which has been awesome.
Really?
Yeah, every morning.
Jeez, like
without fail every morning. Yeah, it's been really good.
I really want to do that.
It's been awesome. Like just have a cup of coffee and just like I do typically like 30 minutes of the Bible and 30 minutes of just like a book. So whether it's like a spiritual book or like a business book, I'm just reading, and that's been really good for me. And so I've because in the past in my old job I would start work at 5:45 in the morning, so it was like sleep until last minute, wake up and like run out the door to work. And so now I can finally enjoy my mornings. So I'm loving that part. That's been a really good thing for me. I think honestly that's how I've been able to sustain this, because I do have my mornings, which is nice. During the week at least. Like I can take my time and I can, kind of jumpstart my day. Hello, what?
No, sorry, you're tapping the
I was like, am I off?
No, you're fine. No, that's amazing. And that's something I'm realizing more and more is like, well, so Jocko Willink, he every morning, I love it because he posts on Instagram and Twitter and like everywhere, Facebook, that he wakes up. I think he wakes up at 4:30. I thought, but no, he's in the gym working out at 4:30. But then he has a very regimented morning, and I think why mornings are so powerful and why I'm trying to become a morning person. We've talked about this before, but like I think like morning person and night owl, like it's not a thing. It's not like who you are. It's really comes down to like your habits and your discipline. But I'm trying to become more of a morning person because mornings are really the only like time where you choose what you want to do. You know what I mean? At night, it's going to be either work or it's going to be family or it's going to be ministry. It's going to decide on like what day. But you're never going to like, no one's going to ask you like, no, let's go like get coffee or like, let's go do a ministry at 6 a.m. That time is consistently for you. So if you can be disciplined in managing your time in the morning, that sets you up for your entire day. Yeah. And something, I think I even need to push that even earlier to like 6 probably so I can invest even more time. Yeah. But one of the things that I was thinking about too was, it's like I said, it's easy to kind of blend everything together. And I think it's really important to have very clear boundaries in what you spend your time on. And having rules, like something that Monique and I have been trying to work on is no work ever on nights and weekends. Because if you don't have that rule in place, it's inevitably going to happen. And then there's going to be mismanaged expectations. There's going to be miscommunication. Someone's going to be mad. Someone's going to be sad. Someone's going to be frustrated. And but then having that rule forces you to be better with your time management during the day.
You have to get everything done.
Yeah. I have to get everything done 9 to 5 during the week because I can't work in the weekends and I can't work nights. So it forces you to be more productive having that rule.
Yeah. One thing you talked about, like focusing on like kind of time blocks. That's one thing I wrote down. So one thing I do is I call it time blocking, which is like I will put like slots of time on my calendar to do certain things. So I kind of go about it a few ways with my calendar. So either sometimes I'll put everything on my calendar. So I'll put like 6:30 to 7:30 reading, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll do like 7:30 to 8 o'clock, planning my day. Like I'll put every little thing on there. Or sometimes I do blocks of time. So I'll put like 6:30 to 8:30. I'll put, personal time, whatever. I don't know. I'll just make it like a block, right? Yeah. And then I'll do 9:30 to, 11, work on schedule, whatever. I'll make it like, I'll put blocks of time. And for me, we talked about this earlier, was even if like I'm not busy, having like a block of time. So whether it's like personal time or brainstorming time, whatever it is, like having that block on there, and no matter what happens, you don't change that. So if someone wants to hang out with you or a meeting comes up or something switches, like you don't switch that time block.
Yeah, totally. Just being true to it. Something also I think is really important that I'm realizing more and more is the switching costs of time. So if I'm basically the whole idea is like going from one activity to the next, work to life, or from meeting to meeting. It may seem like there's no kind of like you can just go from one to the other.
The travel time is all you're missing, but yeah.
It may seem like there's no cost going from one activity to another, but in reality, you have to make these mental switches, and your brain has to kind of get into a different mindset, get into a different mode, has to refocus or has to kind of switch focuses. And the reality is that comes with costs. And for every switch, there's a cost. So whether it's personal time, like in the morning, there's going to be switching costs of now I'm reading, now I'm exercising, now I'm getting ready, whatever it is. And normally kind of the rule of thumb is that the longer blocks of time you can give to yourself for one activity, the more you will get done in that time. So like, I think this is most kind of applicable for work, but something I try to do is have one like 3 to 4 hour unstructured block of time that does not get changed, that does not, there's no meetings in there, because I can't, for example, if I wanted to write a blog post and I know it's going to take me 3 hours, I could block 3 1-hour time blocks in my calendar, and then I could have meetings in between. But the reality is that there's going to be switching costs going from one meeting to writing to another meeting to writing to another meeting to writing, and your brain can't do that. So you might have an hour blocked off to write, but it might take you another 20 minutes just to get back into the writing mode and to get back to remember what you're writing about, to catch up, to reread it. And so I think it's really important to have one big block of time, or at least to structure your day so that you're not switching very much.
How do you handle emails? Like when you like I've kind of always thought like I don't know the best strategy for that. I've tried a few different things. One that I've been doing recently is like when I'm having, let's say it's a 3-hour block to work on something, I'll just close out my email and I don't open it until at the end of that block. But I was curious what you do.
Yeah, that's really I feel
it's
like
hard.
Yeah, it's very hard. I don't have it nailed down, but I'm getting better. And it's this kind of like perpetual like notifications are everywhere. This goes for personal life too. But one thing I do is I try to have like as the least amount of notifications turned on as possible. On my phone, I have almost no notifications except for text messages.
Yeah, same.
Because those are like the most important thing. For emails, I don't do like notifications. Even like seeing the little go from 0 to 1 in the browser at the very top of the tab, like my eyes will see that. So I'll close out email and then work on whatever it is. And so the big thing for me is just like removing as many distractions as possible. So usually I'll kind of first thing in the morning, I'll catch up on like the most important emails. Like if it's urgent, like, hey, can you do this thing? I'll look at it, read it, write it down, and then get to it later. Once I have kind of like my things in order and I have my to-do list, then it's okay. Now I'm going to sit down and do the most important thing that I need to get done. And then usually like, I'll get to my email really around like noon or 1:00, but I never constantly check my email. And like, cause again, you switch back like 50 times in an hour and then you realize you never got anything done.
Yeah. What do you, mine's blanking. I was going to ask you a question.
And Slack is even worse.
Yeah, Slack sucks. I hate Slack. I was going to ask you, for your list, do you write them down on paper or do you do it on your phone or computer? Like for like a day at a time?
Yeah. I would love to have everything on paper, but that would require me, to have one piece of paper, one notebook that I carry around all the time for everything that I can always access.
So what I mean is, so for me, I put everything like on my phone, on the cloud, whatever.
That's what I'm getting at.
What I'm saying is, what I mean is like for a day. So everything's on my phone, but if I have a day dedicated being in the office, I will get a scratch piece of paper and write everything down for that day. I kind of like time block it out on paper. Yeah. For me, being able to cross that off is super like fulfilling. Do you do that at all or no?
Not quite. So the only reason why I don't use paper is because it's not as convenient as I need it to be. So what I do is for work, I use Trello, which is kind of like a easy project management software you can use. So for work, I know that all my work things go in Trello, and I have one board, and then I have 3 columns. It's ideas, it's a backlog, which is like things to do, just not right now, and then it's doing. Yeah. I think it's called do today. So I have a list of things that I need to do today, and then I order them in like the most important, and then I go top down from most important to least important. So for me, I write everything down in a software. So for work, I use Trello. If it's something that I need to remember to do at a certain time, I'll use the reminders app on my iPhone. If it's just like an idea, I'll use the notes app on my iPhone. And I love that because it syncs across your phone, across my laptop, across any other computer that I use. Like if I'm going from desktop to laptop or from phone, it's always in there. And then if I have like kind of a bigger idea, I'll either put it in Evernote or in Notion.
I want to talk about Notion. So we use that for this podcast. It's kind of how it's like a project management, like a workplace.
It's an all-in-one
workplace kind of tool. Yeah. And you actually showed me it when we started doing this, and that's the system that I've been switching to. And so I like it a lot. It's super helpful. Like I'm all about it. Like now I have like my whole business is like all on there. Yeah. I transferred everything from what the previous owners had, everything like on like a Google Docs, Google Sheets, and all that. And I took all that and put it all in Notion. So it's been super cool. But I'm just curious, like how you found it, and like I don't know what would you recommend for someone to use it for, like on a personal basis?
Yeah, so I found it on Twitter, but it's called Notion. You can find it at notion.so, notion.so. It's kind of a funny name. I think it's So is some other country. They're based internationally, whatever. But basically, you can think of Notion as like a notes tool and a to-do list app and a Kanban board and a calendar.
Spreadsheets,
all in one.
Yeah, everything,
Yeah, so, and the reason why I like it so much is because you can easily switch between one format and the other. So, for example, Trello is all like Kanban boards, and you can only do boards. So then it's like, when I want to do a calendar, I have to get some add-on, and I don't really like the way that it looks. Then I can never get it into like a list view or like a spreadsheet. And I definitely couldn't use it for notes because that's a terrible way to manage notes, honestly. And so I like Notion a lot. The thing I would recommend Notion for, I use it for my personal life too, and kind of my bigger projects. And it's great because you can have a master list of like everything you need to do. You can tag it in all the different things. Like, is this work? Is this life? Is this for finances? Is this for like career goals? And then you can view it in whatever way is most convenient for you. You can filter it of like only today, next week, this month, this year. And there's different pages, so you can interlock pages with each other. But I found it's really good just to have like a single source of truth. And that way I'm spending less time looking for things and I'm spending more time like getting to that thing and then doing it.
I agree. So one thing you talked about, like toggling between a spreadsheet and a calendar, and like, what you mean by that? As like a hit of a button, you can swap it.
Yeah.
Which is so sweet. So for me, I have like so it's all in the form of like a spreadsheet. It's like basically my schedule for the next couple of years, really, for the business. And so it has every job, it has the order, it has the day, the location, every detail that I need. And at a hit of a button, let's say rather than looking at my yearly schedule on a spreadsheet, if I want to see it on a calendar, I can just hit calendar view, and it automatically takes that spreadsheet and throws it into a calendar. And it's so sweet. Like, I can click on that day that I want, and when I click on that day, I see all the jobs on that day. I click on the job, and I can instantly see everything that was listed out on that spreadsheet, all the details. So it's like super, super helpful.
Yeah.
And even that alone was like a crazy feature that I was like, wow, this is so sweet.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing. But I think
there's so much more than that, though.
Yeah, and we're not like trying to advertise Notion. I think it's the best tool
we
out
do
there.
get a small commission.
We don't. I wish we did.
Yeah, one day.
But I think the point is to have a system. You want to make your tools work for you and not you work for your tools. That's one of the things I hate is like, do you use your calendar? Do you use your notes app? Do you use your reminders? There's so many different things that you can use. And I mentioned a few different tools, but I really don't use those that often. 90% of the things that I do are in Notion. But I think having one tool that works for you and that you know is very important for time management, because then you know, here's the thing I need to do, here's why, here's where I find it, and here's how I can get to the next one.
Yeah. We spent a lot of time on that, so let's move on. We should wrap up soon.
Yeah.
I just wanted to kind of hit on a few more that we don't have to spend a lot of time on.
Yeah.
But so we said to write everything down. We said to kind of be clear and organized with your list, and I'm pretty sure that's as far as we got. We also talked about, we wrote down having priorities, right? So having like a list of things that we all have a list, but really kind of figuring out what is done. Like kind of have like a weekly list, a today list, a master list, kind of knowing what is a priority for you. Having deadlines, we talked about a little bit. I wrote that down. Using your calendar. One thing I put down was being early for meetings and appointments. And I think that's underrated. And I think it's I know it's super old school, that way of thinking of like be 5 minutes early, whatever.
Right.
But I think like when you decide to be early for meetings, it puts your whole day not even on track but ahead of schedule. And when you're falling behind, it's like every single thing is like you're barely making it and you're stressed. And so I think that whatever you have going on, whether it's appointments, meetings, whatever, be early. Also, don't overschedule. I think for me, I definitely overpack my days a lot.
Yeah.
And it wears me out, puts me behind schedule, and I'm less efficient. So I think, you can be a better manager of your time when you don't do that.
And usually part of that is that you think like, oh, well, I can schedule this thing for this time and that thing for that time. And you don't account for the switching costs.
I think it's a good point. Yeah.
And then you also don't account for the other things that come up in your day that you have to do.
Yeah. Another thing I want to put down was learn how to say no.
Yeah.
This is
that's the biggest one.
It's hard, man. So hard.
Yeah. I mean, I think it comes down to time management is more about what you say no to than it is about what you say yes to. And if you don't take control of your time, then someone else or something else will take control of it.
Yeah. Good.
But I mean, this comes down to prioritizing too. But I think the most important thing you can do is figure out what is the most essential thing that I need to get done, and then get that thing done first, and then figure out all the things that you should say no to.
Yeah, I agree. I think also doing like the hardest thing first too.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, what is the most important? Yeah, because
I guess one point is probably gonna be the hardest at times.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we sort of default to doing easy things first because we feel like it maybe builds momentum and it makes us feel good. Yeah. But in reality, that kind of just procrastinates doing the thing that you really need to get done. So do the opposite. Do the hardest, most important, not necessarily the most urgent, but the most essential thing first, and then do the other ones later.
Cool.
And then you can figure out what is essential, what's not. Whatever is non-essential, say no. And then if you get through your whole list and you have more time to do other things, then you can get back to those things you said no to originally. Yeah. So use your calendar, deadlines, switching costs. Yeah, I think we pretty much covered everything.
Yeah, we did.
We weren't necessarily good stewards of our time in this episode, ironically. But I think that pretty much wraps it up.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. If you liked what you heard, please leave us a review.
Yep.
Corey, what do we say every time?
6 stars.
Nothing more, nothing less.
Yep.
6
Just put
stars,
another
baby.
star in the field, emoji star, and we'll count that as 6.
Awesome.
That'll make the Apple gods happy.
You're so dumb.
Maybe they'll
Okay,
change it
stop
to 6.
talking. Don't forget to visit cultivateandkeep.com/challenge to go ahead and share this, and you can hopefully bump up your points and you can get that W in,
This is the 2-week challenge, so there's very limited
2-week
time.
challenge.
Please do us a favor. We're asking you to share. Go to cultivateandkeep.com/challenge, enter the challenge, share on Facebook, on Twitter, on we'll see if Instagram's available.
Mhm.
Share your link out. Make sure to use that though, and not just share outside. I mean, you can, but that won't count. So make it count.
Well, in the words of my boy, Super Hot, bada beam, boom, pow, pop.